Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our summer webinars. Today, we're going to be talking about reading in the age of AI, and we're introducing a really cool tool that you can also use in Canvas called Perusall. And we are with Katie Welch. So today, here, let me forward my slides. Peggy Semingson, who's our director of CRTLE and also an associate professor of TESOL in linguistics, is going to kick us off here in just a second, talking a little bit about the context of why reading might look a little different in the age of AI, and some concerns we might have to give us some context for what Katie is then just going to talk to us about, which is using Perusall to help do that work with our students, the reading work. Before we get into that, I just want to remind you that our recording or the webinar is being recorded. We'll share it immediately in this Teams afterwards as all recordings and Teams pop up. But we'll also give it a light edit and put it on our Pedagogy Next blog platform, also on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. So if you see something that you like and you want to go back to it later, it will be there. And hopefully some of you who weren't able to join us today can catch all of this there as well. We also have our next webinar. We'll continue. We have just a few more because the summer is almost over. I don't even want to think about that, but here we are. So next week is July 30th from 12 to 1. We'll be talking again about another tool in Canvas, this time Lucid, which is a virtual whiteboard and has some more function as well. And actually the vendor will be here talking with us about Lucid and what that looks like. And speaking of vendors, Perusall will be here August 6th. We'll talk about that again. I'll remind you at the end. So we're really today just introducing the idea of Perusall and getting some ideas from Katie about how she's used it in her classes. And we'll have even more to come on the nuts and bolts and the nitty gritty of that. So for right now, though, I want to turn it over to Dr. Peggy Semingson, and she is going to give us a little bit of context about reading in the age of AI.
Yeah, good to see you
Peggy,
all.
if
Hi,
your voice
everyone.
is there you are.
Can you hear me? 2 thumbs up. Is my audio good? Okay, perfect. It's good to see you. Love the background. I love the sort of background. So thanks for joining, everyone, or if you're listening to the recording. So reading in the age of AI is a great timely topic. We know that faculty are eager to learn more about, well, what if my students are using AI to read, or conversely, how can they use AI to read better? So it's kind of the double-edged sword here with AI in the age of AI. I'm a literacy scholar and a TESOL professor. So Katie and I tag team. We teach courses on how to teach language, English as a second language, and so on. So this is an exciting timely topic. So can't wait to hear more. And so this webinar is designed for everybody. We have this tool integrated into Canvas already. There is a zero cost option, so you can choose that. So there's no cost for your students. It was designed by a group of Harvard scholars. So that's exciting. It's grounded in research. It's, we are excited to have everyone check it out. So we'll highlight Perusall's features that foster active learning. We don't want students to read passively, and this is a way for students to annotate the text and be social about their reading and add that level of accountability to their reading. So getting them to read, quote unquote. So we also want you just to be able to jump in. Again, as Sarah said, we'll have the vendor out to go over nuts and bolts. We'll send out tutorials. And as always, I'll just wrap up by saying, if you check out our Pedagogy Next blog / website, we'll post recaps there. So if you missed something or want to follow up, we'll post everything there. So I'll turn it back over to y'all, Sarah and Katie. Can't wait to hear your ideas.
All right, thank you. So Dr. Katie Welch, thank you for joining us. And I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Sarah Shelton. Hello, but y'all have seen me, so I figure we're good there. So you're the interim director for English Language Institute, and you work over in linguistics with Dr. Semingson's, yes.
That's right.
But tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you teach and what you do here at UTA.
Yeah, well, I am a UTA alum, so
Yay!
I graduated from the Department of Linguistics and TESOL in 2005, and I'm really happy to be back in my home department teaching mostly TESOL. So TESOL is teaching English to speakers of other languages, and I love training ESL teachers. And so the majority of the classes that I teach are either second language acquisition or really practical methods and materials classes for how to teach language.
Love it. Excellent. And before we get into what Perusall is, I'll just remind everybody that, as you're going, please drop any questions you have into the chat, because we'll do the Q&A at the end and we'll stop recording for that. So feel free to, ask freely what you want to know. And our friends Peggy and Yusuf and Nikisha will be monitoring the chat throughout, and we'll make sure we get to all those questions at the end. So, okay. Without further ado, what is Perusall? Please tell us.
Great question. Well, it's interesting, Peggy, you mentioned about it's an annotating tool, and I think that is one way to describe it. I know 10 years ago, when I needed students to do readings for my class, I would literally have them physically annotate a text. And so I had a little guide that they would follow when they found things that were interesting or noteworthy or they were confused about. And so this is really just an updated version of that that's online. It utilizes AI, but it is a way for students to read collaboratively with their peers and not just annotate on their own, but to then be able to read others' annotations, react, have a conversation. So that has some discussion board elements as well. And just, I think, really taking a lot of the things that we've used in our classrooms historically, but putting it into a web-based, easy to use model.
Yeah, just to kind of go off that, because I do physical annotation. Still I do. I teach English, so I mean you kind of have to. What do you think is the biggest difference between doing it on paper and doing it digitally like this? What do you think?
Yeah, I think what I've noticed in terms of using Perusall is that the quality of annotations are higher. Partially because I think students are typing instead of handwriting, and so I think
which they like,
I think that just kind of makes it easier, just practically speaking. But also, it's a conversation, and so it's not just a text to self conversation where you're reacting to the text. You're reacting to the text and then seeing what everyone else's reactions are. So it has that group active learning aspect to it that I think really adds something.
Almost like texting too, which they do like to do.
And it has the emojis and you can upvote things.
Oh,
and so
my goodness.
It adds a lot of those like social media aspects to it as well.
So very much their discourse community kind of thing. Yeah, okay, good. All right, well, how did you even become aware of Perusall? Like what happened there?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, so I follow a colleague on LinkedIn that teaches at Dallas College in their ESOL department. And she has kind of been an early adopter of a lot of things AI. She teaches writing and has been trying to figure out how do you integrate AI into writing and reading. And she just adopted Perusall one semester and decided to share on LinkedIn every week how it was going.
Oh, cool.
And she would just say what's working, what's not working. And so I felt like I just kind of shadowed her for a semester, hearing how it was going. And it intrigued me enough that even though she was using it in kind of an ESOL context, I realized this is something that could be used broadly in lots of disciplines in higher education. And so I wanted to try it in my classes and see how it goes.
Yeah, you don't have to be teaching reading to use it because like there's textbooks and all sorts of stuff. Okay, So, so when and how then did you start using Perusall in your own class?
Yeah, so it's very recent. I did it last semester, so this is brand new, but I decided I wanted to try it. My thinking was I was teaching a second language acquisition class that for undergraduates, and my goal was at the end of the semester that they could read a journal article on their own, they could understand it, and then they could put it into a poster format and present it to everyone else. And so my thinking kind of in backwards design was, if that's my goal, what do I need? What are the subsequent steps to get them there? And I realized first I needed them to just be able to read a journal article and understand it, and then ultimately read one on their own and understand it so that they could then give the information to others. And so that was how I set it up, as I curated some journal articles I felt like were kind of easily accessible for my group. I put them onto Perusall, and we read them together collaboratively. We annotated them, we talked about them. And so we did that for several weeks until we kind of got used to the platform, got used to reading journal articles. And then Perusall has this amazing feature where it doesn't have to be everyone reading the same article all together. You can go in and differentiate. And so you could make small groups where different groups are reading different articles, Or in my case, I went ahead and the students chose an article of choice, and each student read their own article, annotated on Perusall. I could go in and kind of quality control to make sure that we were understanding before they went on and did their final project.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that was how I used it, and it worked amazing. First time, and not too much that I would change about that.
Yeah. So did you feel like, you know, as far as student engagement goes, they were engaged, it was good? Like, it seemed to go well.
Surprised, actually. Because I think when you adopt a new tool like this,
I know, yeah,
I think there's some worries on my side of, do I know how to use this tool well enough that if there's trouble, am I going to be able to troubleshoot it for the students if there's issues? We had no technical issues whatsoever. It was very seamless. But also, I didn't know what to expect in terms of kind of student output. And in this class, in the first half of the semester, we were doing the traditional discussion boards. So they already had that kind of in the syllabus. And what I found was I got even more engagement in the Perusall format than I did in just the discussion boards where we were talking together. And so I think maybe part of that was because they could go in and target exactly the line or the part that they were finding confusing or the part that they found interesting, and then could reply to each other just about that section. So I think
it keeps the text centered, right? Instead of it being like a bit separated on the discussion board where you're just kind of, you know, over here talking about it, but the text is back wherever we were reading it, which is interesting. I like that.
And whenever you were reading it, right? Maybe
right, exactly,
maybe they're not even doing it simultaneously, and so they're trying to remember what they read. But I think it does keep the text centered. It's a great way to say it.
Yeah, and the text becomes another part, like conversation piece. Yeah, okay. So speaking of the text then, because I was playing around this morning in preparation, and I noticed that you can like bring in, you know, they have books and text that you can adopt, and there's some costs with some of that. But but you said you brought in your own stuff. So talk to us a little bit about that. Like, what did you find was that you could bring in, or that you like to bring in, or what was it like?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's actually set up, so you're right, I didn't explore all of it because I wasn't utilizing, for example, you can adopt a textbook through Perusall and then you're annotating the text itself. But you can, if you have your own materials, so, you know, teacher created materials, you can upload those. They actually have a default first assignment, which is annotating the syllabus. And so it's pre-made. And so all you have to do is upload your syllabus, and then the students can annotate on that as kind of a way to learn Perusall in a low stakes kind of way, and then also to engage with the syllabus, which they may or may not do. And so,
it's always questionable.
And so, so you could upload something as simple as a syllabus, but in my case, we went to the UTA library, and there were, in our textbook, there were a bunch of additional reading kind of bibliography there, and so we just, my TA and I curated the different ones that we thought would be most relevant to the students, and so we were able to get them from the UTA library and then upload them directly to Perusall.
Oh yeah, because not only do we have our databases that we can get PDFs from, but we have the OER program, which is the Open Educational Resources. So I'm wondering if we can pull in stuff from that. And, okay.
I would imagine so. Again, I was using PDFs,
so
I'm not sure.
Absolutely,
But I would imagine, so it seemed like there were a lot of different opportunities besides what I was doing.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love it. All right, so you know, is AI involved in this at all, or how is it integrated into the platform?
That's a great question. Yeah, this is maybe the best part. Actually, this is the good news. Is that there is AI integrated into it, more so on the instructor side. So when you are uploading your document, the AI will generate potential discussion starters, so stems for the students to be able to use. But the really great part is that it's AI graded. And so the grading itself is done by AI, and I was very hesitant about this because I don't want to relinquish control in some ways of being able to make sure the quality is there and everything. But the way that it works is that they have an algorithm that for engagement, and instead of just being number of characters in an annotation or something like that, it's actually a lot of different factors. And so one is time actively reading. And I think that was one of the things that really surprised me, is that obviously I don't have a way to measure that in a typical scenario where I just send a PDF and hope they read it. But it's able to determine how much time they're spending with the mouse click, scrolling through and everything. And my students a lot of them, this is their first time reading this type of journal article. And I think sometimes we have the curse of knowledge where we don't remember what it was like to be a novice in our own field, right? And so we write journal articles, we read them, we know how to pick out the important information. But for my students, it was taking them about an hour to read these different journal articles. And so the AI was giving them credit for time that they spent just reading.
Oh, as it should be, yeah.
And then it would also give credit for quality of annotations. There was kind of a high quality, a medium quality, a low quality. But also if you were writing something that was kind of a conversation starter and then had a lot of people engaging with you, that was a way. So it's a huge algorithm, and there's like maybe 7 or 8 different pieces of it. And they give recommendations of what percentage each of these things should be to make a combined score. And so a student could, for example, even if they had lower quality, or let's say medium quality annotations, but had spent a lot of time reading and had something that was doing a great conversation, they could still score in a way with a person who maybe were able to read faster, but had the higher quality annotations. So, and so what I did with the scoring, there was kind of 3 options. One was just ignore the AI completely and turn it off and you just score it yourself. One was the AI would give you a recommended score. You could look at it, decide if you agreed with that score, and then release it to the student, or it's just auto done. And so when I started, I was very hesitant, and so I said, well, I want to see what the students are producing, and I don't know if I trust the AI. And so I did it myself. And then once I saw kind of what the recommended scoring were, kind of how it worked with the algorithm, I realized, oh, this is pretty much in line with what I would have done. And so I went ahead and switched it over in the middle of the semester to where the AI was doing it, and I just would kind of check behind before releasing it to students.
But I just love all of that because it's giving credit to things that we say are so important, such as, growth and like being where, there's differentiation happening without you having to figure it out yourself. Like there's giving absolute credit to students who may be reading slower, but they're engaging and doing the work, and they're powering through that productive bafflement and all that kind of stuff, all the good stuff. So I love that because that's the kind of thing that you can't necessarily grade. Because even when I have my students do like, a written annotation, and I'm just looking at to see if they marked it up, right? But they could have just gone through and like, don't tell them, but they could just go through and like highlight things and be like, all right, I'm done. So that's really cool. That's a good use of AI, I feel like. I'm happy with this.
I know that professors probably are all over the place in terms of how they view AI, and I was very hesitant going into this and thinking, I don't know. But after I saw their algorithm, realized it, and then there were certain pieces too. I can't remember what they were, but there was there was like a quiz. I could make a quiz as part of it as well. I just turned that off. And so it was very customizable to my preferences, and so I feel like that's nice for instructors who may be coming in more hesitant or more gung-ho, is that they can really adapt it to their sensibilities.
Okay, but then how do I get this into Canvas? And like, what is that? Like, it exists. We know it's out there, but like we did a webinar on Conmingo last week, so we saw how we could put that in. I'm sure it's pretty similar.
I would imagine so,
I think I'm going to advance. I'm going to go back to the slides for just a second and pull up your video and just let you kind of talk through what it would look like to get this into your course.
I just want everyone to see it's very easy. And so I felt like a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? And so this is me going into my settings in one of my course shells for this fall. And when I click in settings, up at the top, I'm going to go to navigation. And I'm just going to scroll down as far as you can possibly go. These are not alphabetical.
I know, so I noticed that this morning.
Don't look in the P's. It's the third from the bottom right now. And you're just going to drag that all the way up and put it wherever you want it to be in your menu. So I put it under assignments. And the most important thing, when everyone always forgets, is you click save at the bottom. I know, it's so hard to remember. And now Perusall is there for me. And when I click on it, it automatically links into Perusall. The first time you sign in, you'll need to just put in your UTA credentials. But from there, this is my Perusall platform. And what's neat about it is that I have a setting in here where after I have finalized the grades, after I say this is what I want the grades to be, I just push a button and it just all goes back to Canvas.
Oh, no way.
That's
so
really cool. It's the grades all, and I actually am doing it the harder way, because there is a way that just once it auto grades with the AI, it immediately populates in Canvas. But because I wanted to just double check and see what had happened before saying yes, but it's very seamless between Canvas and Perusall.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Because that's like even, I love a lot of the tools, but a lot of times, even when you create them in the tool, you have to like somehow get it back into Canvas.
Yes.
So that's really cool that it grades it.
Very easy. The only challenge that I faced with it is if I have a student who turns in late work. And so it's if there's a deadline set for the assignment and a student, I can go in and override and say, you can go ahead and grade this and put it back, but I just have to do a little refresh button to get it back all into Canvas. So that's the only little caveat, is it'll show a 0 in Canvas for anyone that didn't turn it in.
Okay, cool. Well, you know, riffing off of that a little bit, any other challenges or like, you know, little quirks that you came across that you had to push through or figure out? Or, yeah. She's like, yes.
I think it's not a quirk so much as my students, many of them got full points. Like many of them got full points. And I was not expecting that. And I think I teach really wonderful students. So, and I think they're really interested in the topic. So they're engaged. But that's the only thing moving forward, is I kind of have to think about, wow, this, you know, they really are actually engaging in the way that I wanted them to. And so I was giving a lot of full points. And so I think in the future, I just want to think about how much am I weighting this Perusall in context of everything else in the class. But it's not a bad thing when your students are really engaged, right? That's a good problem to have. But it was just surprising to me because I think, you know, these were 25-point assignments, and you can customize the number of points. And they were all so into it that everyone was getting their full credit, which is awesome. But I just had to kind of, I wasn't expecting that. So.
No, I mean, I've come across that several times. Just when you're trying to include any sort of something that has, you're trying to measure or assess engagement or participation or anything. And then they get full points and you're like, this is weighting things a little oddly. But I don't know that that's a bad thing.
Exactly. I mean, it's just food for thought, I think. But I think I came in with lower expectations about the extent to which my students would want to engage in this platform. And then I was kind of blown away. And then all of a sudden it really helped boost grades, which is great because they were engaged. But I think just in the whole picture of the class, I want to think about how I'm integrating Perusall in with other things that we're doing.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't surprise me that you were like, we'll see, because, you know, when they come in having been assigned a reading to the classroom and we have discussion, I don't know about you. Maybe your students are in a different place than mine right now, but it's a lot of blank faces. And I mean, that's just generally the affect right now anyways. But when we're talking about a reading, I find that they're not as prepared as I would like them to be, or willing to put their idea out there. And so it sounds to me, and I don't know what you think, if I'm on the right track here, but this is sort of mitigating two of those things. It is giving them time and space and giving them credit for that, so that they have a larger stake in it, you know, that preparation or whatever. But also they're having the conversation, they're in the program already. So I don't know, did you ever follow those things up with discussion in the classroom? I'm putting you on the spot right now.
No, that's
like, did you see a difference in that, or what do you think?
That's a great question. It's an asynchronous online class, so I wouldn't have in-person discussion to gauge it off of. But it did seem like, because my goal was ultimately then to be able to read a journal article and be able to do a presentation. And those also went very well. To where it seemed like they did comprehend what they were reading. And then ultimately we do a little science fair kind of in a virtual space. Another fun tool that I use, where they virtually visit each other's poster and go see it. And so that also, it seemed like there was a lot of engagement in that. So I think maybe because it was all building towards a real world, you know, something where they were going to be on the stage presenting as the teacher, and then they were again going to be engaging with each other on these topics in a different way. I do think it kind of all built towards that.
Okay, well, pause, because I can't not ask. So you had a virtual space where they could visit posters? Is that, that's not Perusall?
It's not Perusall, totally.
Okay, but do tell, what is this tool?
App smashing, where you take all these apps and you bring them together, right? But that one is called Gather. And it's like a virtual conference space. And so I had attended a virtual conference where they did a poster, like a poster session in this Gather. And you have a little avatar, and it's kind of like a video game where you move your little avatar and you go by a poster and it pulls up the poster. And then in my students' case, they also made a video, so it pulled up their presentation, and so they present their poster. And it's awesome. I'll come back another time and show it to you. It's really awesome.
We're going to continue these webinars, hopefully. So yeah, I think we might have to talk about this one because cool. I do posters a lot of the time, but in large literature classes, we don't have time to present them in class.
Yeah, totally.
Not even really a gallery walk because there's not enough room in the, in the room.
Yeah.
But I've had them, get in discussion board groups and go look at each other's posters and talk. But this would be a lot more fun.
It's super cool.
And very gamified.
Very gamified. Yeah.
Oh, well. Katie, hello. Thank you very much.
I'll show you. It's really neat. That one's a little bit, I'm going to be honest, so that one's a little bit more time intensive than Perusall.
It sounds so.
It was worth it, though. It was really worth it because I felt like we got where we were trying to go, which was, especially in an asynchronous online course, you're getting the sense of community. So
yeah, that online, I mean, still giving them the experience of presenting, but in this different way.
Yeah.
And it's a way that, because you're using it, it's a tool that's out there in the world being used by us. So they're getting good experience.
Yeah, that was my thinking.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, anything else that we haven't covered with Perusall that you were wanting to, share or?
Yeah, I would just say give it a shot. Even if you're a little hesitant like I was, I think this is one that's worth trying. And as far as I know, I don't believe there's a lot of UTA professors that are using it. When I initially reached out to Perusall to get the handshake between Canvas and Perusall, and so I'd love to see a lot more professors using it.
Yeah. Well, and so we are, like I said, here. I'm gonna go back to the slides just for a second. Oh, so Katie gave us these excellent resources. There also we'll have. We'll drop some links in the chats too, but there are support pages for Perusall. Did you feel like you got good support when you went to?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
That's why everything is beautifully laid out. It's all very self-explanatory, and so I feel like instead of me explaining it to you, just use the QR code.
Yeah.
You can
and just go
you
play.
can see it. Yeah.
Go play and learn. Because like I said, I just kind of got in there this morning just to kind of kick around and see, what was going on, and it seemed like a very easy,
very intuitive
thing to pull in. Yeah. And then I really liked this source. I went and looked at it too. Just some good tutorial stuff. And also we'll put the slides in the chat as well. So if you want to look at these later, y'all can. This was me this morning. When I was talking about earlier, that there are books already in here. I just did a search for critical theory up here in the that says subject matter, and now it says critical theory, and it pulled up several books that, I could use, but I like the fact that we can bring in our own stuff, but this was interesting, and it was, of course, I love to look at books, so that was, I might have gotten a little off track this morning, and this was just a screenshot that I found on the web this morning of what it kind of looks like while the students are in there working. This looks to me like this is a textbook, and so just to give you kind of a visual of what we've been talking about, because like I said earlier, we're going to have Perusall come, and so thank you for being the pioneer and getting them with us. They're going to come on the 6th, and they're going to give us a tour of the app itself, or the program itself, and so lots more that we can talk about there. Let's see. So I think we'll go to Q&A now and see if we have any questions from the chat, and for that I'm going to turn it back over to Peggy, because I have not had access to the chat. So I'm going to see if there have been any questions that we need to address. Okay. Tell us,
Sorry,
Peggy.
I'm sorry, I'm not well illuminated, I think. Oh, there we go. Okay. Hi, everyone. We have, yes, it will be entirely virtual, Christy. I think, let's see. I hear a little echo, but that's okay. So it will be entirely virtual on the 6th and recorded. So if you miss it, and let me jump into, I'm going to scroll up and just see, Katie, I think we asked a CDE, and there are about 40 faculty using Perusall. I forgot the exact numbers, but that's the ballpark. Yeah, something like that. So they have
awesome.
They found it, and maybe they used Hypothesis, which is kind of the parallel tool that I know the history department and some people in COLA were really into it at one point. So this is really similar. Okay, I'm going to scroll up and just look at comments. Someone said, Kendra said, I have used Perusall with the physics textbook in 2015, early adopter. The social aspect was very helpful. And then Christy said, I am looking for replacements for Canvas discussion boards. Possible automatic grading could be a bonus. I'm looking at Perusall, and I've also heard of Harmonize. Has anyone heard of Harmonize? So have you heard of it, Sarah? Or I've not heard of it.
No, I have not.
I haven't.
Not heard of it. And then Diana said, this seems like a great tool for our syllabus reviews. Yeah, I think just adding accountability. Christy had asked, can PowerPoint slides or videos be used in Perusall? And I think they can, but have you come across any other formats that can be used? I know PDF.
That's a great question. I can't remember, honestly.
Yeah.
I imagine a PDF of a PowerPoint, sure, but I don't know if you could do like an actual PowerPoint presentation or not. Good question for Perusall on August 6th.
I found this from University of Oregon, and it says PDF, websites, images. Let's see. Yes, so those are the main ones, and I think it does do videos if it's a YouTube or Vimeo. And then Kendra says the best aspect at that time was students marking parts of the text they didn't understand and having their peers responding with their understanding of the text. What do you think?
Yeah, and actually I didn't mention, but they have a confusion report. That's another part of the AI that I didn't mention, is there's a confusion report that gets generated for the faculty that will show which parts of the text were most confusing to students.
Oh my goodness, that's
really helpful.
Incredibly helpful data.
That's great. Awesome. I love it. Offload our brains. Diana says this also may help with revisions to the course with student feedback. And then here comes a few questions. Can students see what their auto-generated grade is before the due date so they can improve it if they want?
I think that capability exists, if I understand it correctly, but I would want to check with Perusall to make sure. And it kind of depends on, because I had it set up where I had to manually release grades out to Canvas, in which case they wouldn't have been able to see it. But I think there is a way to do that.
Which is nice, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if they realize they haven't gotten the
engagement. Yeah, because they can decide. Do they want to?
Yeah, are they happy or not?
Engage a little bit more? Do they want to? Are they happy with the grade and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Oh, good. And then Jeff Witzel from our home department says, any pitfalls that you can help us avoid when setting it up in Canvas? Are there any features you would recommend setting up or not toggling off for each reading?
That's a great question. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I like default had on and then decided I needed to take off. So not that I can think of, Jeff, but yeah, I would have to go back and look and see.
It sounds
good. It's probably okay to go with the default settings is what I'm thinking.
That's good. Okay, good to know. And then Katie and Sarah, would you recommend seeding, this is a scaffolding question, would you recommend seeding the text with questions you would like students to respond to?
I did. I definitely did, especially in the first one. I actually annotated it myself to help them kind of have some signposting for what is a journal article and what are the things they need to be looking for as they're reading it. And so I definitely had a lot of annotations kind of pre-loaded in that first one. And then as we got into the second one, where it was thinking a little bit more about content, then if there were areas that I really wanted them to focus on because it was a methodology that was interesting or something, then I went ahead and annotated that for them. So I definitely was kind of stacking the deck in my favor by engaging with the text first myself and then helping them see how I wanted them to engage with it.
Yeah, and just triggered in my mind because I just had my students, I'm teaching a PhD class on writing in business. And I do this with all my writing students, but they pick a mentor text that they have to, analyze and break apart and look at the pieces and the structure of it. Yes. And they could do that in Perusall, and I could actually see it. Because I just usually have them turn it in as like a chart or they can do it on the paper itself. Yeah. But I would imagine it would be a lot better for me to be able to see it in Perusall and have the algorithm see how much engagement was actually happening. Yeah. Because you can also put a journal article in AI right now and say, what are the parts of this? And it will tell you. So exactly. If you want them to actually engage in the process themselves and have a record or a trace of it that you can look at, it sounds to me like Perusall is a good platform for that. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I think so. And I think too, I was also just trying to teach them about just even what journal articles, where they fit in our field. So I would annotate the actual name of the journal article and help them understand that. And so, so I think there's ways to actually teach or pre-teach some of those skills through it as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, that just made me think of 1301, which I will also be teaching in the fall, which is first year writing. And when they pull articles from the database and we talk about citing and about, well, where is this from and whatever, they usually name the database itself as the journal, like,
interesting.
It's Sage or Elsevier. I'm like, no,
right.
that would be so that would be cool to be able to like, annotate it yourself and show them the pieces and which we do in class, but it seems to me like this is a bit more interactive and like they can get in there and follow along and do it with you afterwards and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's also, I'm a presence in the text. And
right, you're there.
Saying, I've read this too, and here's some things that I, thought about, or here's some things I want you to notice. So I think that kind of brings, especially in an asynchronous online course where you're kind of this person that's out in the cloud, it brings you in as well.
Well, and in a face-to-face course, especially if you can flip it like that, where they're doing that work with you outside of the classroom, and then you're coming in and you're having the discussion. I think that they're still getting the support from you when you're not, right there in the classroom, and you can actually get to the analysis and the discussion and stuff like that.
It'd be awesome for a flip course.
Well, you're just like helping me plan my whole fall right now, so which I need to do. Don't tell anyone. This is great. I love it. Okay, sorry, Peggy. We got off on a tangent.
That's perfect.
What other
That's perfect.
I'm
going to scroll up again. So we had some great questions about scaffolding, and let's see, we've posted some support pages. Somebody said, I used Perusall in my previous institution for journal articles. Students had some great discussions that were fueled from comments of other students made or questions other students asked. I know in literacy we call this, if it's verbal or oral, we call it crosstalk, and it's really important for students to talk to each other. And I put in the chat too, comprehension is conversation. So that's kind of this idea that we develop our comprehension through talking, or in this case, written talking. Let's see. And Kendra found a resource that says what we can annotate.
Oh, thank you.
Yay.
Yes.
Did we put that in the chat? She put that in the chat for us.
She did.
Excellent.
But yeah, that's all we have. So any other comments from anyone? Type them in the chat. Katie, how easy is it to get started?
I would say very easy. Easier than I was expecting. So I would encourage you to just go into one of your Canvas shells for the fall that you haven't published yet, and go down to settings, go to navigation, find that Perusall, add it in, and click on it, and see for yourself. But you should be able to have it kind of up and running within maybe 10 to 15 minutes at the most.
Okay, I'll add a tip too. When I taught on campus pre-COVID, I mainly teach online, but when I taught on campus, I had the students use Hypothesis, which was a similar tool. And what I did is we did it together in class. And so I think that's a great thing to do if you teach on campus, is just to have everyone get out their laptop or possibly their phone or iPad or whatever, and just log in, and you do it together in real time. So I'm actually a fan of that. Like, we do exit tickets in real time in class, or sometimes we'll just pause and type something in the Teams. I teach HighFlex, where some people are online and some are on campus, but we're all on Teams. So similar to that, I think it's great to kind of scaffold that way. But yeah, do we have any other comments, or how do people want to get started? Oh, we have a question from Diana. She says, I teach a lot of practice real world assessments in the community. How much of Perusall is recommended for integration? Diana, can you tell us more about that, like subject area and that kind of thing? She's going to type for us. But while she's doing that, Katie or Sarah, do you have any other kind of Other thoughts, comments you want to share, popped in your head? Why does this matter in an age of AI? I think that's where we started our session.
I mean, I've now I'm really excited to have this, but like I had recently gone pretty analog and like back to like in the past semester, I let my students in some of my literature classes choose the final novel they're going to read. But they knew going in from day one in the syllabus, it says, one of the costs of the class is you have to purchase a print copy of the book. And so I went old school with them and we worked on annotation in class and stuff like that. And they didn't turn in the book, but they brought it by the office and I looked at it. And this is in a smaller class too, so it doesn't scale well, like really, which this would scale well, especially with AI doing the grading of the engagement. And that's the piece that I think is I feel like our students default to AI so much, especially with writing, if you're using writing as an assessment, no matter what subject you're teaching, because they are missing support in the earlier stages. Whether it's brainstorming, outlining, or even just understanding and having read the material that's going to go into it. And so I think that finding ways to support and walk students through the reading and the we call it, you can call it whatever you want, grappling, productive bafflement, that sort of gap moment of like, I don't understand what I'm reading, I give up, like I don't have time for this, like this is a core class, why would I do this, or this is a this or that, whatever their thought process is, they're gonna immediately kind of go to the easier path, and why wouldn't they? And so anything you can do to back it up a step, and whether it is actually, have them literally annotate and walk them through the reading process, I think is helpful in supporting us maybe kind of re-engaging their critical thinking and helping them not default immediately to AI in the ways that we don't want them to. Because of course, AI is a helpful tool in many, many ways, but what we don't want is, you just doing all of your assessment pieces because you can in AI. So I am really excited about this, just because I think that it gives them a platform with you to work through that whole process in a way they may not have had to do in a while, if ever. And it also is very transparent, it looks like to me. It's very like, we're all struggling with this text. It's not just you, everyone has questions. Not everyone knows the answers. Some people have strengths in this area, so they might be able to help here, others here. So I think that I was just off, I don't know, now I don't remember why I started talking about this, but Peggy was just wondering what we were thinking, and I'm thinking that this is actually just, again, another tool that we might be able to use to support students in a way that is useful and practical, and helps us with all the very different issues we're having to deal with right now with their participation and engagement and all the things. So
it goes back to process over product.
Yes, process over product. Absolutely. Yes.
We're focusing on the process and
the growth. There.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And if they have those foundations, then maybe you're not as likely to default to AI when you have a writing assignment or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like it. Okay, but I went off on a tangent again. So Peggy, were there other, did Diana explain or?
Yes, she did. And then Jeff asked a great question. I think I know the answer to Jeff's. So let's see. Jeff, I don't know if we've mentioned it, but they do have a way to show if students are copying and pasting in their response. That's one way AI can detect. It's not a catch-all. But okay, Diana said, for example, social work practice, I use scaffolding and flipped classroom. Can I use Perusall for all assignments or just some? For example, making the whole class with the platform, definitely recommend just some. In fact, I would just say a few. But what do you think, Katie and Sarah?
Yeah, I think it's one tool in a greater toolkit that you're using in the classroom. And I think like anything, where I think students kind of get discussion board fatigue because it's, it's just so prevalent in every online class or every flipped class. And so I think this is just a way to add in some novelty, but it also, I think you could probably get Perusall fatigue as well. And so so I would think of it as just one tool in a greater toolkit of app smashing that I do in my class. So.
Yeah, definitely.
It was gather. That was the gather. Okay.
That's excellent. Sorry, I think I have a slight audio delay. Jeff had a great question. He said, is there a way to set it up so that the student has to make a certain number of novel comments or questions? I can imagine someone gaming the system, just reading and commenting rather than really engaging with the text. So I do believe they can track time somehow, but do you know anything, Katie or Sarah?
Yeah, there's definitely, part of it is they're looking at time spent. So if you just quickly generated some comments on AI and plugged them in real quick, you're not going to get the full points in the algorithm because it's also tracking time on task. And then you also, as the instructor, get that. I would every assignment get a kind of a report that showed who had copied and pasted their comments. I wasn't quite sure what to do with that, honestly, because I imagine that some students may actually just pull up a Google Doc and type in their comments, but at least gave me something to look at, and I could either accept those as their submission, or I could reject that and say I'm not going to accept those annotations.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's nice.
So there was some flexibility there. I imagine that I feel like there are probably always ways to game the system, but I think they've tried to safeguard against it as much as possible. So
there is no foolproof anything.
Yeah.
If they're going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So true. That's so true. I put something in the chat about analytics that can be used to understand student engagement and understanding. And from a literacy perspective, these are just going to be proxies for understanding. Like you can stare at a page for 10 minutes and not know what it's about at all. And so it's kind of a mix of things, a little bit of a black box, but Jeff, that might be worth looking into. Yes.
Something just that I was remembering.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Sorry.
Something I was remembering, Peggy, is that a lot of students were annotating the word pedagogy, which was very disturbing to me because that's what I teach. And so there was things like that too, where I think that confusion report or whatever, it was giving me more data. And that also tells me if they're highlighting it, that tells me they at least read the sentence with it in there and said, huh? And so that gave me some sense of the fact that this is authentic engagement as opposed to just passive.
Yeah,
no engagement.
I like it. And then someone asked, can we post the link to the August 6th meeting? And I think we have that. I'm not sure. Nikisha, if we have that, we will post it in the chat. If it's not set up yet, we'll get that out ASAP.
Yeah, and we always, we post the RSVP links and ads for each of the webinars on our social media, Instagram and Facebook too. So if you're not, make sure Pedagogy Next, the actual blog and website has all the information, but you can also follow CRTLE on Instagram and see that information as well. So.
Yeah, we'll get those out in multiple platforms.
All right. I feel like, what do you think, Peggy? Are any more questions or?
I don't see any. I think we're perusalled out.
Okay. We're perusalled out. Well, we're going to have more perusal. A lot of the nuts and bolts and nitty gritty will be on August 6th. We'll get in there, let you look at it. I would play with it in the meantime. I think coming, to this, having kind of gotten in there, because you can bring your questions straight to the vendor who will be presenting with us. So we do, as always, going back to the slides, have a feedback survey. We would really appreciate it if you could just take a few minutes to answer a few questions. That helps us here at CRTLE understand what you got out of the webinar, but also what we need in the future and how it can be most helpful to y'all. And also if you need to, and that link will also be in the chat. So the slides with the QR code will be in the chat eventually. And it's here right now, but then also we'll put the link to the survey in the chat. And if you need to get in touch with us, please, yes, I will fix this slide before we put it into the chat and actually put Katie and Peggy's email addresses on there. But you can also email us at CRTLE or go to the website or the Pedagogy Next blog and find us as well. So Thank you all so much, and thank you, Katie.
Yeah,
this was
thanks for having
fantastic.
me.
I'm sorry.
so
I'm
much
just
fun.
so I know. I am I've got all sorts of ideas now.
Yay,
so way to go. Way
yay.
to make got me all distracted. All right. Thank you all so much. We'll see you next time. Next Wednesday. Woohoo.